You know, we've all been there before. Things aren't going really well. Doesn't seem to ever be an end to it. It just keeps going on, and yet we have to maintain some sense of hope. We have to be optimistic that at some point in time, whatever the negative thing is, that it's going to end. We've all been there. So that's the point of my talk today. Initially, I wasn't going to do this topic this week, but life happened, and it creates kind of an inspiration for something that I feel is important. It's important because I'm having to deal with it right now, but it's also important because I'm sure a lot of you out there are having to deal with something similar to this, either health-wise or mental health-wise or financial or in your life with relationships in some way. There's always a situation in which, we just may feel like it's never going to end. It's just going to keep going on and on. So that's the point. That's the topic for today. Now, of course, it was inspired by the fact that for the past 3 weeks, I have had some sort of lower intestinal problem, digestive problem that just won't go away. It gets better, then it gets worse, then it gets better, then it gets worse. And it's getting old at this point. It's getting really old at this point. I don't think I've ever gone 3 weeks before ever having any kind of digestive issue like this. And it's frustrating and it's scary at times. And that's what made me think about, when you start to lose hope that, something is going to go away or improve or whatever, what kind of place are you in mentally and how do you overcome that? So for me, by the time that you see this video, I will be at the doctor's office and hopefully he will order some tests and stuff like that to figure out maybe if there's something like some pathogen or something that's causing this. I don't know. I know that I've been on a brat diet. If you know what a brat diet is, it's basically bananas, rice, applesauce, toast for most of the last 3 weeks. I was feeling better for a while and I ended up eating some other things and then I had a setback. So now I'm strictly on the brat until I feel like I'm really past, a healing point. That's what's going on. Hopefully I will find out something soon. But this incident has reminded me of other times in my life when I had especially health problems. With me, health stuff is my Achilles heel. Like when I have a health issue and it doesn't go away in a reasonable period of time, I always kind of freak out a little bit inside and I keep thinking, am I ever going to be normal again? And for some reason, I'm prone to stuff like this in my life. I've had several situations in my life since I was, maybe even when I was a little kid, I don't know, but I know since my 20s where I have stuff that just doesn't go away. Goes away, comes back, goes away, comes back, and then finally it goes away, but it just takes forever. So hopefully most of you don't have that problem, but it can also be something that's not health related that maybe is concerning you. So, stay tuned. I'm going to give you some tips at the end of this, which is going to talk about ways you can deal with that kind of hopeless feeling that you get. So, yeah, I've had other incidents in my life like this where things went on, and of course, now looking back on it, I realized that in all those cases, eventually it came to an end. Maybe not when I wanted it to, but eventually it passed. The saying goes, all things must pass, and they do. Basically, things pass in life and you move on to something else. Now, that may not be better, could be worse, but in most cases, I would say for most people, it's better. So for me, this was an important reminder in doing this video to not give up myself and not to feel hopeless and not to feel like there's no end to it, because I believe that there is. And I have to fight for that belief inside myself. My default position is to, kind of go deeper into that hopeless hole, and I did that video on the hole in the sidewalk last week, so it's kind of a similar theme. But yeah, my default position when something goes on so long is to kind of just feel hopeless. And I am not a person prone to depression at all, but the only time I generally get depressed is when I have something like this that just doesn't go away. And then I remember many years ago, I went to a doctor for some neurological problems I was having in my 20s, and they actually tested me for MS and things like that. But fortunately, I did not have those. But I remember the doctor asking me, well, are you depressed? And I said, yes. And he says, why do you think you're depressed? I go, because I'm sick. It's not unusual at all to be depressed when you're sick, especially for a long time. So anyway, I came up with, I was thinking about what would help me, and then I thought, well, that'll help you. So I came up with 4 things that I think will really help when you're struggling with something chronic or that just will not go away. It just keeps persisting and you're like, ugh, I don't want it to. And the first thing is to change your scenery. In other words, by that I mean, if you're sitting around in your house or you're in bed or whatever, get up, take a shower, put some clothes on, go out for a walk, or at least go out and sit in the fresh air. That alone will help me. Like, with this thing I've had to be home for, sometimes 2-3 days at a time because I didn't trust myself going out in the world because of having lower intestinal problem. So because of that, I just every 2 or 3 days, I got to just be outside for a bit. I did go out like today, and of course I have been feeling better again, knock on wood. Let's hope this one holds. I don't know. And so that's one thing I know will help. Just change your situation in the sense of, make sure you put on fresh clothes or you take a shower, you go out and get some air, go for a walk, go for a drive, whatever you feel like is going to help you. The second thing I think is important is to remember that change is a constant, okay? I know that sounds like an oxymoron, but change is always happening, for good and for bad. And so generally things are not going to stay the same, which is why most of the time when I get sickness or whatever, I don't freak out because I always remember that, generally things are going to get better for most things. So it is important to remember that whatever your situation, that change is the basic denominator here, and you never know which way change is going to go. So hopefully, in many cases, I believe it does go towards the positive most of the time. So there's that. The third thing, I love this one, which is that remember all the other things you've overcome in your life. Remember all the other times that you felt like this is not going to end, or it's hopeless, or how am I ever going to get past this? Whether it's a physical problem, an emotional problem, a relationship, a financial situation, whatever. We've all been in other situations where we thought this is hopeless, but it gets better. It may take a while, but it gets better. And it's important to remember how much you've already overcome, because we have all overcome quite a bit, especially the longer we've lived in our lives, we've overcome quite a bit. That's what kind of helps keep me going right now and not, give in to that hopelessness, because I do know how much I've overcome. And I've overcome things worse than this, so it'll be all right. And the last thing is to picture yourself without that problem. Picture yourself in the future, whether it's a week in the future, a month in the future, however much time, it doesn't matter. Just picture what it's going to be like when you don't have that problem anymore. That one I also really like. I really think that is very useful. I really know it's helped me. I believe it can help you as well. And it's just important to be able to visualize basically how you want it to be. Do you picture yourself? In my case, it would be picturing myself being able to go out and have a meal somewhere or make a nice meal at home. I was supposed to have lasagna for Christmas, and that didn't happen. So I'm kind of visualizing when I can finally have lasagna, which will be great. I don't know if that's going to be 2 weeks from now or a month from now or beyond that, but I know eventually I'm going to have that lasagna. So I hope that's helped today. If you're dealing with something that has made you feel hopeless, or in the future, keep these things in mind for when you're facing a situation like that. It is so important to keep hope alive and to not give in to the darkness, to not give in to that darkness, which can envelop anybody. There are really big challenges to health sometimes, and sometimes you're not going to get better. That is the bottom line. Sometimes you're not. For those of you who didn't probably watch my video on when I was in Africa and had what they thought was cholera at the time, I almost died over there when I was 22 years old. And that was a big wake-up call to life, basically, for me. That was, a lot of times when you go through a crisis like that, especially a health crisis when you're young, it is a real message to really enjoy your life and be grateful for your life. And I certainly was when I recovered. But that's not why I bring this up right now. I bring it up because I remember that when I was so sick, that two of the fellow volunteers, they were two women volunteers, came to me, and there's a phrase that they always kept saying to me as I was, getting better. Well, initially not getting better and then eventually getting better. But they said, do fort. And that meant be strong, with strength, basically. And it really meant something to me because I am a person that am a fighter. And so when I was going through cholera and really could have died, almost died one night, I thought of that, being strong, being strong, being strong. I will get through this. I will get through this. And so sometimes you have to use that too. You have to use a phrase of some kind that just kind of makes you muster up your warrior, inner warrior, so that you can fight whatever you're dealing with. And I hope that you can, and I know I will get through this. Don't know when it will be, totally, when I'll be back to what I consider normal, but I know I will do it. I know I will get through this. So anyway, I hope these tips have helped you on how to deal with the threat of hopelessness and beating back the darkness in your life. It's something that at some point in time most people deal with. Until next time, be well, be kind, keep moving forward, and take care of yourselves.